Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going? It's me, Kyle, again, and today we're here for episode 10, which will be the final episode in this series of the NFT Developer Diaries with NFT Maker Pro. This one is going to be all about how we finally, now we've got everything loaded into NFT Maker Pro, how we get the system to actually display the address for which will allow people to mint them. I'm going to focus only on how we get that API call running so that you can then transfer that knowledge into whichever web framework you prefer. There's a lot in web design. Simply put, it's a very broad topic, and I don't think it would be a great idea for me to just show you the specifics of how my website's built. I don't think that's a great idea. However, I'll go into a lot of detail about how it needs to be done. Okay, the first thing you need to know is that we're going to be doing some more stuff with the API, so let's have a look at that. So we're going to make a new method here called def get counts, like that, and we'll put API in the end, and then we'll do a bit of this, and then we'll just do, for now, we'll just put print hi in there, and then we're going to do another method called def get address, again API, so we know what they are, and again we're going to put print hi. Okay, so what I've done here is I've pulled in two URLs. So first one is we're going to grab this one here. It's going to be URL, and that's for our get counts. This is the easiest of all the API calls that return something. And then I've got this templated one here that I've pulled from my code, and I've just shown you that here. So this is the one for the addresses. For now, though, we're going to focus on this get counts one. All right. So if we scroll back down, we probably, if we scroll up, you can see here we've got our API key there. So we're going to put that in here where it says XXXX, and then in here as well. And then the next part is our project ID, which, as you remember, is that number. And then we're going to drop that in here where the Y's are. All right, so we've now got our URLs written out. We've got our API keys in there and the project IDs. And the next thing is we're going to say call equals requests. So same again, requests library dot get. Now note, this is a get call. Before we used a post. All right, so this is saying rather than pushing data up, we're actually going to get data now. All right, and we're going to literally, all we've got to say is get that URL. So we're going to say URL equals URL just to be super clear, like that. There you go. Then we need to say call content equals call dot content, and then finally we then need to have made sure we've, right at the top, we need to make sure we've done import JSON, like that. Back down to our code, and where are we? Here we are. Yeah. Then we need to say finally call JSON equals JSON.loads, like that. Definitely loads call content, and then finally we're going to print that call JSON. So let's run that. And there you go. You can see here we've got 12 NFTs. None have been sold. All 12 are free. None are reserved. And there's no errors. So brilliant. Okay. Let's now do the exact same thing with this other method here. So quite literally just grab that same code and then drop that in here like that. And then we're going to run that as well. Run that again. And in this part, I've just called both methods at the same time. So you can see, and just to make it super clear, we'll say running counts like that. And we'll change that to say running address. All right. Okay, let's run that then. And then, as you can see, we've got here the same thing as above for the first method. And then when it runs this, it returns a payment address, which is there. And it tells us when that's going to expire, how much ADA to send, how much that is in euros at this current time, how much it is in USD, and the effective date. So that's really, really good. So what you can see here then is we've returned a JSON, a bit of JSON data, and it's got all of our key things that we need in it. And you'll notice that I've set that to 10 million of what's called Lovelace, which is each Lovelace, like Ada Lovelace, I believe that's where it comes from, is 1/1,000,000th of an ADA. So for example, if we set this to 15 million and we run that again, we will see that now we've run it a couple of times. We're actually now starting to get to see that some of them are being reserved, and you can see the ADA to send there has gone to 15. You can also see the time I recorded this, and that's set to 20 minutes from now, and it's actually 19 minutes past 1 at the moment, hence why that's now 38 minutes past, right? So that's how all of that stuff we've put together builds, and that's what you get, all right? So the only other thing I really need to show you now is how to interact with those values. So you might see they're in JSON, or you might be thinking, well, hang on, how do I get to, for example, the free count, right? So let's do that. So what we're going to do is, like, as in, how do I access that variable? Because you might want to adjust the price based on the number that are out there. That's how my original website worked. So what it did was it did a call, it checked how many were free, and then based on the number that were free, i.e. how many were left, it scaled up the price, which is the ADA to send. Now, I don't do it like that anymore. It's just a fixed price at the moment. The main thing, though, for you is that you're going to need to display these 3 key pieces of information when any user comes in, as did I, because as we remember before, what's actually happened here is that this method's run. It picks a random NFT off the back end, associates it with an address for 20 minutes. As long as it sees a sender send this amount of ADA to this address before this time, it will then mint the NFT and send it to whoever sent it. And it will do all that for you. Just a moment, I'm going to log into NFT Maker Pro and we'll have a look at that. And here we are, we're in the console now. And if we go, you can already see, look, reserved, manage NFT. And then if we go to here and we look at the reserved count, you can see that numbers 1, 3, 6, 10, and 11 are reserved. And then if we just run that bit of code again, and if we have ran that again, which we just did, we should see now 6 are reserved. So there's, you can see here, like 3, 6, reserved 6. And it would keep doing that. And then eventually, actually, you can see here when they're reserved to. So that's that part done. And now, if genuinely, if someone were to send ADA to that address, it would actually mint these. So your only, I guess your final task now is to essentially get a button on a website. Okay, so let's try that then. So we're going to say the address like that equals call JSON. So that's the JSON object that returns. And literally all we've got to say is payment. Let's have a look at how it's shown. So you can see here payment address is spelled like that. So drop that in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to print the address you need to send it to is, and then plus the address. And there you go. You can see we've accessed that variable nicely there. And as you can see, we keep running it and they keep getting more reservations. So if we now look on the back end, we should see that there's actually 4, or actually no, it'd be 5 by the time because we've ran that second. So yeah, let's have a look. All right, this leaves us now with just one more task, which is essentially, obviously we want it to look good. It needs to be secure. It needs to have a capture in front of it. We need to stop bots. We need to think about all these things. But essentially, we need to now get a button on a website where people can click it and it displays those key 3 bits of info, which is that address, when it expires, and how much ADA to send to it. Of course, this means we need to do a back-end, front-end setup, so a full web server. All right, we're going to need to do both sides. So let's talk a bit about that now. And then we'll conclude out. Thank you. Now, this is a very, very early version of the Bucrew website, like extremely early actually. And you can see how we're running some code here. What I'm going to do is essentially just show you roughly how it works in terms of the back end and front end. But I would highly advise taking away some time to really learn the basics of web development, especially server-side work. Okay, a lot of people will probably know a little bit of HTML, but the key thing is that you know how to create the back end and front end, because we're making API calls which you have to make from the server side. So, for example, you would need to use something like Node.js backend and a React front end, or in my case, I used Python Flask backend and then a simple HTML front end. Okay, just looking at some code here. I've added in these methods. I'm going to rerun the website and let's see how that changes things. So let's just refresh that. And you can see it's now says 12. And just to show you one last thing, I'm going to add in some functionality just so it makes a call to give us an address. So let's do that. But the key point is you need to understand front end and back end, because this is actually going out to the public. There's the security side as well to consider. Okay. This is not what my website looks like on the back end now at all. There's actually quite a lot to it. The only thing I want to convey to you though is the NFT Maker Pro part of this is very simply that you need to make, and if we pull, remember this bit of code here, literally speaking, if we pull this, and this is some, as I said, very basic two methods here. I've got this one called clicked it. And what I'm going to do is, you see here is we got data 3. I'm going to add in this again, and we're just going to say the address equals data 3. And then to keep it running, we have to do it from the command line. So let's now refresh it, and we should see, there you go. You see how it's pulled through that address? Now, I know it doesn't look good. It's not meant to look good at this point. All I'm saying is that essentially you were going to have to build a website anyway. This is the NFT Maker Pro part. Just display that, the expiry time, and the amount of ADA, and you're looking good. Okay. But everything we've done so far, this is it. This is all you need to be able to do. As I said right at the beginning of this, does require some skill to set up. Okay, you do need to know how to, especially on the web programming side, how to get it all working. Really put some research into the hosting provider that you're going to go with, because as I say, it's not going to be enough to simply, get a website hosted. You need to get on the back end of that. Okay, and if that concept sounds like not something you want to be doing, then I would say put some time into researching what that actually means. It's not particularly, it's not impossible, but it took me a very, very, very long time to work it out. Key things to note are, at some point you're going to need to get the website hosted. It's very important to check with the host that you're going to go with before you do that, to make sure you can actually get on the back-end server and run your own web app essentially, and get on that server side to make the adjustments. If you think about it, like how if you get like a WordPress site, that point when you install WordPress and it's all done for you, well, that stuff that WordPress does for you, you're going to have to do something like that. Obviously not to that extent, because WordPress is they've been building that for decades, right? But you're going to need to do something on the server side. Make sure, if you write it in Node, make sure that the host provider you've got allows you to run a Node.js web app from their hosting. If you do it in Python Flask, make sure that. Ruby, whatever it is that you choose, just check your hosting. Really then, what I want to get across is that, using NFT Maker is essentially, it takes out so much of that work for you, all right? And essentially allows you to just as we can see on my full website here. Click the button, and then mine simply, very much just displays the 3 key bits of information that the user needs to see. So however you were going to design your website, make sure you have this in mind, that need to display it. But overall, we've now done every step of the process there, apart from designing your own website. Okay, I hope that's been helpful for you guys. I believe this is certainly at the moment the most detailed, in-depth tutorial, certainly for NFT Maker Pro, possibly for NFTs overall on Cardano. And I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope you learned a lot from it. And as always, I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best of luck for this. Honestly, it's been great showing you guys how to do all of this stuff. I've had a fantastic time in the CNFT space building this, and I hope to remain in here for a very long time. It's been awesome. Cardano has been very good to me so far. I love the trajectory of what they're trying to do. So thank you all for joining me in this really quite detailed series. I hope you've learned a lot from it, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much.